need some help with your microphone there, Ricky?
No, I don't need any help. I can put on my own microphone. Not a child. Actually, I am a child. Big 54-year-old child. Hello, Richard from budgetguitarist.com, the website. The website. Surely you've heard of it. You haven't heard of it. No, you don't. Okay. Budgetguitarist.com is a website that is dedicated to helping you get the best results possible, spending the least amount of money. So today, we're going to examine something. We're going to look at the PRS line. PRS, of course, stands for Paul Reed Smith. PRS is probably the third most popular guitar brand name in the world, behind Fender and Gibson, probably in that order. I'm a big fan of Fender, I'm a fan of Gibson, mostly, and I'm definitely a fan of PRS. The problem with PRS is that their American-made guitars, well, most of them sell for $2,500, $3,000, $4,000. But the good folks at PRS decided a while ago that they were going to make something for the budget players. And so what I have for you today is two different kinds of lower-end PRS guitars. Now what's really cool about this is that I put the same pickup in the bridge for both of these guitars, and I'm going to play both of them for you so you can hear what they both sound like. That'll be a real treat for you. Let's begin in South Korea. This guitar is the PRS SE Custom 24. It's manufactured by World Musical Instruments in South Korea. Now, World Musical Instruments is a manufacturer based in South Korea that makes some really good quality, relatively inexpensive guitars. If you want to buy, in 2020, a PRS SE Custom 24, a guitar like this will set you back probably somewhere around $700 to $750. That's not what I paid for this. I got this on a Black Friday special about 5 years ago for $399. At the time, they were selling for $599. So basically, I got it almost half price, which I thought was a phenomenal deal. I got it from Sam Ash. By the way, Sam Ash, yeah, I know I only have like 30 subscribers at this point, but you just wait. One of these days, I'm going to have 100 subscribers. And then I'll be looking for my phone to ring. Why, yes, I would like an endorsement. Why, yes, you can send me gear to review. That's going to be wonderful. Anyway, so here we have the SE Custom 24, all nice and smudged up because I actually play this thing. This is a stock guitar, with one exception. The bridge pickup is a Seymour Duncan Pearly Gates. Now, the Pearly Gates pickup is my favorite humbucker in the world. It's an Alnico 2-bass pickup. At some point in time, I'll do a pickup show and explain what that means. But here's what you need to know. It was designed around the famous Pearly Gates Les Paul played by ZZ Top. It was a 1958 or 59 Les Paul. If I had any actual viewers, they'd be yelling at me in the comments section below right now. As of now, I do not. So anyway, it's a great sounding pickup. It's really good for classic rock, which is sort of the area that I live. Actually, I live in Florida, but I like to play Anyway. So it's a 2-humbucker design. It's called a Custom 24 because it has 24 frets. Most guitars have 22, some have 23, maybe some have 21. This has 24. Now, why does this matter? I'm glad you asked. So 24 frets means on your E string, you've got 1 octave up. And then when you go up even higher, where most guitars will go, and they'll end somewhere around there, but on here you can go, see, you can get the octave. Huh? 24 frets, huh? So 24 frets, it's a relatively thin guitar. The action is extremely low, and the neck, it's going to be hard for you to see this really, but the neck is very, very thin. So it's a wide neck, but it's a very thin neck. It's really built for speed. And any guitar solo I have done on my last 2 albums have been this guitar, except for the song Rained On, which was Red Les Paul. Anyway, this is my favorite. My favorite use for this guitar, hang on. One thing I really like is I'm a big fan of Brian May's, and so I actually like to hear the sound of the pick on the string, like that. The kind of, hear it? It just sounds more rock and roll to me. It sounds more human, more raw. Well, anyway, so it's got a maple top. The maple is slightly figured. I don't know if you can see this real well in the camera. There, you can kind of see it there, right? You see it? So flame maple pattern. This is basically a maple veneer on a maple cap. And so if you look at the side of the guitar here, what you've got is, and again, hard to see here on the YouTubes, but there's a very thin layer of figured maple on top. It's got the wonderful grain pattern. Underneath that, there's a layer of maple that's not anything special. Underneath that is mahogany. The neck is mahogany, the body is mahogany with a maple cap and the maple veneer. And so you can get, when you get a maple veneer, you've got some good looking wood, and out of that piece of really good looking wood, you can make maybe 10 or 11 tops out of it because you're shaving it almost paper thin. You know, I take that back. I did replace these tuners. These are locking Grover tuners. So locking tuners means you put the string through, you turn it around one time, it locks in place, and it keeps the tune better. This does have a tremolo, a vibrato bar, which I almost never use. I've got the back plate removed so you can see the springs. I'm just not a big vibrato bar guy. I'm just not that into it. But this is probably one of my 3 favorite guitars because it is so easy to play. It is so fast. And $750 new for this model on the used market, if you look really carefully, $400 or $500 maybe. And this is a good enough guitar that you could play it forever. If you see one of these for $400, you should definitely snag it. So for a beginner guitar player, this would be phenomenal. Thing about being a beginner player is that, you know, in a lot of cases, mom and dad fork out the money for their first electric guitar, but if they buy an $80 or $100 guitar, they're not really setting their child up for success, because the better the instrument, the easier it's going to be to play in general, the better it's going to sound in general, and it really pays to get a good quality instrument. That said, there are some great $100 guitars, but in general, if you get something like this, you could keep it and play it forever. So like I said, $750, maybe $400, $500 used. I got it on Black Friday for $399, which is great. It's made in South Korea. There are other South Korean models, some a little cheaper, some a little more expensive. But let's take a trip up the price line and look at a PRS guitar made in America. So the next step up in price is the American-made S2 series. So what I have here is a very similar guitar, but there are some differences. For one thing, this is a solid mahogany body. If you look at the side of it, there's no cap on this. There's no veneer, there's no cap. It's just one solid piece of mahogany that they have basically kind of rounded off here. And then on the back, it's rounded. They call that a belly cut because that's, you know, if you're an older guy like me and you have a bit of a belly, then it doesn't dig into your ribs. Really nice. It's the South Korean one has one. This one has one. All the PRS guitars, I think, just about have that. Fender Strats have it, etc., and so on. Anyway, so this is the S2 Satin 24. Just like the Custom 24, it's got 24 frets, which is really nice. The The width of the neck is about the same as the SE, but in this case, the neck is a little bit thicker. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but it's a little thicker. So it's maybe not quite as easy to play, but it has some other advantages. It sounds a little bit better, even with the same pickup in it. And you're not going to be able to maybe tell the difference between these two guitars over the YouTubes, but if you can hear the difference, in the room, I can definitely hear a difference. So same pickup, same shape guitar, it's made differently. This is made in America in Maryland. And of all the guitars I own, and I own almost 20, this is probably the best made, the best put together. The reason I say that is because it does not go out of tune very easily. I can play it for 2 hours and it'll still be in tune. You know, the weather in Florida here does change. We get rainy days, we get super hot days. My other guitars will go out of tune just sitting on the stand. This one won't. It's just a wonderful guitar. It's really great for doing gigs because it's very dependable. What differences do we have? Well, we've got the PRS locking tuners, so no need to upgrade the tuners. The nut is pretty much the same. The pickups in this guitar, as well as in the Korean-made SE, are G&B. They're sort of like generic pickups, sort of like good generic pickups. They're not the same pickups that come in the American guitar, which is fine because I like the Pearly Gates and that's what I'm going to put in anyway. I didn't point it out on the other guitar, but we've got our volume and we've got our tone. The electronics in here, like the volume pot, tone pot, are actually higher quality than what's in the Korean version. This has something called a treble bleed, which means as I reduce the volume on here, normally on a guitar it'll start to get a little muffled. On this guitar, because it's got better electronics, it does not. So that's kind of cool. This guitar, new, sells for $1,000. I got it at the International Guitar Convention in Orlando, which is hard to say, a couple of years ago for $500. I had to do a little bit of fretwork on it, which is why I think nobody else bought it. And it is one of my 3 favorite guitars. Probably. I absolutely love this thing. It sounds great. It plays great. Weight-wise, it's about the same. But so you can see sort of like what's the difference between these two. And if you were going to buy one or the other, which one would you buy? The prices I got them for, this was $399. This was $500. This guitar is easier to play. Okay. This guitar is more, I would say, gig worthy. Part of that might be because it does have a thicker neck. One of the issues that you might find with thinner necks on guitars is that, at least in my experience, they're a little more susceptible to the weather changing and they go out of tune a little bit easier. Some people claim that they actually will warp easier because there's not as much wood. I've had no problems with this guitar, but I can tell you between these two, this guy stays in tune way, 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 way better. Sound-wise, they sound kind of similar. In the room, this guitar sounds better. There's a depth to the sound. There's a clarity that's sort of not as much in this guitar. But in a mix, when you're actually playing on a tune, I don't know that you could tell the difference. I don't know that I could tell the difference. I think Eric Johnson could tell the difference. But Eric Johnson could tell if I took out one of the pickguard screws. He could hear the difference. If I knew Eric Johnson, which I don't, but if I did, then he definitely could. Yeah, he could. You can see how this guitar here cuts a lot of corners, even though it's more money. It's got this big, huge pickguard, right? And so the electronics are mounted to the pickguard, and that's an inexpensive way to make guitars, whereas this guitar, basically, they have to route the body, and all the electronics come up through the wood. And so there's a big cavity here where they have to put this cover on the back. So it's more expensive to make a guitar this way. So cosmetically, you can get a better looking guitar for your money if you go with a South Korean made PRS. Was I saying like Korean instead of South Korean in this video? If I was, I apologize. So that's a look at these two guitars. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to unplug my microphone. I'm going to connect the HX Stomp directly into Logic to record the audio. And I'm going to give you some really good audio samples playing of both of these guitars so that you can kind of hear the difference. If you look around and you can find one of these used again, I would strongly consider it, especially if you're in the market for humbucking pickup guitars and not single coil. I'm a huge PRS fan. Okay, enough talking. Let's get on with the playing.
Well, there you go. Another really fun, long, boring video. If you like PRS guitars, you maybe were interested. If not, why you still watching? I mean, really. Regardless, thanks for watching. Be sure to come back next week because we'll have another video. I can't promise it'll be any good, but I can promise it will happen. That's all for now. Goodbye. Go away.